That was the number one thing. It just takes so much energy to talk. They drew an extrapolation that journaling then could actually make an important difference, especially ideally, you want that brain-body releasing connection to the paper.
Today we have Sylvia Donley, CNA past president, and good heavens, I have the last person's information there, so I didn't finish it. So why don't you introduce yourself, Sylvia?
Well, hello, everybody. Sorry you can't see me. We kind of had a glitch earlier today when we were practicing this as well. So it's really, thank you for everybody for being here today. A little bit about myself. Well, I just had a birthday, so I'm like 62 now. I love that. My background is in nursing. I was a registered nurse, and I took a very bad hit playing soccer, impacted my kneecap up into the femur. And through the process of having surgery and whatnot, I developed a reflex sympathetic dystrophy. It's nowadays called under the umbrella of complex regional pain syndrome. And following that, I've been rear-ended 5 times, and I've got herniations and compressed nerves and all that. So that's how I actually got introduced to the Calgary Neuropathy Association. And I was the president for a long time, but now I'm raising my 6-year-old grandson. So I've stepped down, still on the board, still doing a little bit to help out. But we are so fortunate to have Linda with all her technical expertise, and Louise, they work together amazing. Steve and Brenda back are on the board now. So we're looking forward to a good year. Anyways, we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm going to get into this. Again, I'm going to be talking about journaling for health and conversations. And if we take a look, how do I change? Oh, there we are. This is just what today's flow is going to look like. So I'm just going to start with talking about communicating, why it becomes difficult when you live with a chronic condition like neuropathy. I'm then going to move into the strategy of the journaling, a little bit of how I got motivated with that. We're going to look at the benefits, how journaling can be used directly to support conversations, especially the ones that you want to have with family, friends, coworkers, healthcare providers about what you live with. So when it comes to communicating and you're living with a chronic condition that has a lot of symptoms to it, you have to remember that it is a skill. And when you have, with neuropathy in particular, pain or weakness, you have the numbness, often there's other disabling symptoms. And when you're trying to explain yourself or to provide necessary information, it can become more difficult. And it takes energy to talk. And when I talk to people about this and ask them questions, that was the number one thing. It just takes so much energy to talk. When you get distracted by your own symptoms, it's hard to focus on listening to others. It's hard to even keep track of your own thoughts. The intensity of pain can actually impact your speech rate, but also your clarity. And that can also be impacted by medications that you're taking. Again, that can also have an effect on any brain fog, just trying to find the words that you want to get across. That becomes difficult. There's distracting gestures. So when you're grimacing or you're limping or you're shuffling or adjusting in a chair, that's a big one for me. I'm always trying to adjust myself to be able to sit for any length of time. And that takes away from being able to communicate, listening and speaking. All these things, we know that leads to more anxiety, more depression, more isolation, and that becomes something we live with every day. Now, it also is a challenge. It takes time, as I said, to get across all the information that you want to share. There's 3 messages that we're trying to get across when we explain ourselves. The first is, what is happening? What is it that brings you to this conversation or to this appointment? So, for example, I have pain and numbness in my feet. Well, that's what a healthcare provider wants to know. I've experienced it. I've heard it from others that too often, that's all they want to know. They don't have a lot of time in those appointments, so they want to know the medical. So living with numbness and pain in my feet. So the second part is what you want the others to know. And that usually is how it's impacting you physically, emotionally, even financially. And the third part of what we're also trying to get across is what is this meaning in how we get through each day, the impact that it's having on our lives, the changes in our lives to our identity. I look back and I think when it was a really tough time at the beginning, I was no longer a nurse working. I wasn't teaching. I was no longer the athlete playing soccer, skiing, swimming, hiking, dancing, doing all those things. I was no longer had the same friends and no longer felt like I was the person that I knew I used to be. And no one can actually see or feel your pain. So being able to converse with others clear and concisely does become a challenge, especially in those really short doctor's appointments when you're already limited to one or two concerns and limited to time. So that's what we're here for today, is to talk about the strategy of journaling that can directly support us in conversing easier. It can help us reduce our anxiety. It helps us to clarify about what we want to provide information-wise to family, friends, coworkers, healthcare providers, what they want to hear, but also the information that we want them to hear. So this is just a couple definitions of what is journaling. And here I'm just going to talk about how I got into journaling. So what really led me into this and looking at the experiencing the benefits from journaling happened many, many years ago, over 30. So while I was going through a really tough time, I was simply overwhelmed. And so I began writing things down just to remember the details that I would need to share later. And as I was writing it out, then on the side, I found I was writing and adding notes and what I was thinking and words here and there that described what I was feeling. And I wrote about what I had hoped would happen. And then I would make a bullet list on the various things and ideas that I could come up with that would help me get out of this tough time. For me at the time, it was something like a little story, a to-do list, a memory thing. I didn't realize it back then, but that exercise today would be defined as a type of journaling. It's probably a good thing you can't all see me because I have got my hands going all over the place describing this. I have one more story I really want to share. So more recently, I began exploring the benefits of journaling after a friend of mine went to see a counselor. And she called me afterwards. She was extremely upset. She had tears, was frustrated, was angry. And it turns out that she was encouraged to journal before her next appointment. And I did. I thought to myself, really? You are this upset over that? And she went on to describe it. For her, it's a waste of time and questioned what journaling could possibly do for her and her situation. And despite my encouragement, she quit and did not return for her next appointment. But that motivated me to do research and explore the benefits through writing and journaling so that I could better advocate for that process of journaling. This is the first list of evidence-based benefits. I've got two of them, and then there's a combination of the two. Now, we have an understanding, and we know that our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions do affect our health. When we put these on paper in any form of writing, journaling, there are more and more science-based studies documenting these benefits. They use brain scans, MRIs, blood samples, behavioral cognitive testing. So I was reading about one out of Berkeley University in California, and Kira Newman cites that the researchers split the volunteers into two groups, and one simply would record what happened each day. The other group was told to write about challenges and traumas that in their lives. Then all the study subjects were given a hepatitis vaccine and 2 booster shots. Now, you would think what you wrote in a journal wouldn't have any impact at all on how your body responds to a vaccine, but that's not what the team found. According to the blood test, the group that journaled about upsetting experiences actually had higher antibodies. And they drew an extrapolation that journaling then could actually make an important difference, especially for people who are immunocompromised. She also talked about another one, about a study where they wanted to see if journaling could have an effect on the immune system when you already are infected with a virus. And yes, this study did come out. They did refer to COVID in that. But this study took college kids suffering from mono, and they wrote about their troubles. And the ones that wrote about the troubles had a stronger immune response to actually fight the infection they were already living with. I just found that so interesting. Now, there's the second list. So I'm going to, this page here now is all of the previous two. And you can see that there is a really healthy list of evidence-based benefits. And at first, I found many of them really surprising, like improved immune, the lung, liver functioning. It really piqued my interest to keep going with this. But I also want to bring to your attention some more immediate benefits that you can work with when you're journaling that can help support your communication with others. So journaling for health is a way of organizing our thoughts. We can track, we can see patterns and trends through our writing. We can identify priorities, and we can realize if we've had any successes. We notice judgments of ourselves and of others. It can be meditative and relaxing. And through that mind-body connection of actually writing, we strengthen our memory. And ultimately, we actually have a more of a self-confidence improves with this. Writing can give us the insight and can lead to change in how we perceive things, how we act, and how we react. This is our everyday life. We can gain a better understanding of ourselves and ultimately how we relate and communicate with others. Now, this is going back a little to why conversing becomes more difficult when living with a chronic condition like neuropathy. There is a tendency at times to settle into periods of what I call self-focus. And I call it that because it sounds a whole lot better than self-pity. So, and I do take into hibernation myself at times. So that's where I thought, you know what, I'm calling this self-focus. But it's when we become consumed and limited. Why me? I can't do that anymore. My friends have all gone hiking and I'm left behind. And this kind of thinking leads to the avoidance of others, leads to isolation, makes it more difficult to engage in others in a meaningful way. And it's also why, as you can see from the slide that's up, I am going to give a little plug for the Calgary Neuropathy Association, because it does offer a safe place for like people to learn and to find that they are not alone in their symptoms and changes. And it allows people to have the opportunity to talk with others and to find that voice of theirs again, to practice conversing with people that understand. So journaling, Linda had mentioned this in her talk. It's one of the 100+ things to do for neuropathy that is being built on the website. And the type of journaling that it talks in number 47 there, it describes and it focuses on writing a pain journal. So if you're interested in that, just go to the website. It's up there, the 100+ things, and it's number 47. Where today I'm going to introduce some other forms of journaling. They have a variety of goals, a variety of benefits. And again, you can see that this list is quite lengthy, various types of journaling. It's not exhaustive, and it pretty much tells us that any concept can be journaled. Beyond this list, as I was preparing for this, I was getting tripped up. One minute I'm talking about free flowing and don't worry about punctuation, and the next I'm trying to talk about preparing for conversations. And I realized that in any of the research I was doing, it wasn't differentiated. And I've realized that there's actually two categories that I've noticed. And the first I'm just going to call the general journaling, and the other I'm going to refer to as prep journaling. So general journals are an expression of your thoughts, your feelings, your perspectives, understanding of a given situation. It can be free flowing with no restrictions, whereas prep journaling has more of an immediate purpose. It has a focus to prepare for a conversation, an appointment, a project, to speak with somebody else about something specific, like how your symptoms change day to day, or letting others know what you can do and what you need support with. So no matter what your goal is for journaling, the process of writing in a journal provides that time to reflect on an experience as you're writing it. If you're recounting an experience, being in the present or anticipating the future one, writing it in longhand is a slower process than speaking. So it's possible now that you can give thought for the words that you choose. And it also offers time for reflection. You have that opportunity to look from various perspectives of what you've written. You know, write it out, put it down, look at it the next day or several hours later, and see if that's really what it is you want to get across. Now, I would be amiss if I didn't speak a little bit about the artist's way. In my searches, I repeatedly read references to the artist's way and the morning pages. Fortunately, I have taken the course and I can speak to it. It was actually my formal introduction to journaling. And I took it through the Alexander's Writers Center here in Calgary many years ago. It's a 12-week course, and it teaches techniques and exercises to assist people in gaining self-confidence, in getting their creative talents and skills going. I was new to LTD and I was kind of lost. I was trying to figure out who I was going to be with this new life I was living. And, you know, these injuries and just how it changed everything. It was an excellent course. One of the challenging exercises in it, though, soon became something I really started to look forward to doing every morning. So Julia Cameron is the author, and she explains these morning pages. So each and every morning, as soon as I would wake up, I would write longhand for 3 pages. And I have to laugh because at the beginning, I remember trying to find the smallest notebook I could to make those pages smaller. But as I found the benefits of writing and releasing, it was really cathartic. And I did move to a regular size notebook. The process was free flowing. It did not have the restrictions of any sentence structure or even needing to make sense. It was, as Julia Cameron explains, it was strictly a stream of consciousness put onto paper. Now, in the course, I think we had to wait till week 9 before we went back to review what we had written, and it was very eye-opening. I still have my book and my writings from it. So this is a quote from Julia, that the healing power of expressive writing can restore your body, mind, and spirit. She wrote that over 30 years ago. One of the other things is, sorry, I'm just having a memory right now. We had to write 3 pages, and I can remember one morning in particular where I just really struggled to even wake up. And when I reached over and got my book, I was so tired. I just couldn't think that day. But I was dedicated. I was going to get these 3 pages done. And I just wrote over and over for 3 pages. I don't know what to write today. Nope, nothing coming to mind. I have nothing to write. I'm just too tired. And I just kept writing that for 3 pages. But I did quickly learn to write about how I felt and how I felt about things that I was writing. It's important to be honest to yourself and to write as explicitly as you can. It's also important to listen to all your thoughts, use all your senses, bring all that in. You want to let it play out. You want it, whether it's positive or negative, you want to let it out so you can understand the direction that it's leading you in. And when you write notes on the spur of the moment, just to keep track of your thoughts is a really good exercise. Just keep a pen and piece of paper and just jot a few words so that when you get home, you can maybe explore that further. To this day, I still journal, and I love that physical connection of releasing thoughts and fears and concerns and even joys, but just letting that release through the body onto the paper, just letting it go. Julia Cameron with The Artist Way explains how committing to this free flow of writing every morning can lead to a connection with a source of wisdom that we hold within. Now, I've just got a couple examples of types of journaling. So I wrote this one just the other day. It's a gratitude list, and I'm using the bullet format. So what made me happy that day was Aiden's smile and hearing "I love you, Nana" every morning. He comes into my room and I just love it. The weather was getting warmer, so I was happy that day. Loved the longer daylight. Despite my injuries, I had a lab report, and overall, I'm in good health for the first time in over 20 years. My cholesterol's in the regular normal range. I was thrilled about that. My mom lives here now. I've got great doctors. I appreciate everyone that is on the board and all the members. I appreciate the Calgary Neuropathy Association and the work they do. It's amazing. And this must have been right after turkey dinner on the weekend, because I tried all new recipes and it was fantastic. Now, here is one more type of journaling. This is an example of art journaling. And there's no right or wrong way to ever journal. You can write in clusters of words, you can add pictures, you can explore your perceptions, if you want to interpret something about what you see around you. This one was made up to get me motivated to start gardening again. Those are my mom's clematis in the top one. This is my little garden out front. How much I appreciate it, what I get out of it. It's beautiful, it's peaceful. But for me, I need to learn to pace. That's why I wrote the word twice. I need to pace. I have to watch my posture. And that was just one day of a different type of journaling. This is an example of stream of consciousness journaling. I know what is happening. I know what to do, but what I struggle with is the complete lack of desire to move. I want to find a purpose, a reason for caring, for getting up, for living, and I want to move beyond these darn injuries to navigate a life for me. I'm not happy. Do something about it. Will I listen? Ugh, why is this so difficult? Keep writing. I know it's beneficial. I know. Oh, what else do I know? And I got distracted. A popsicle really sounded good at that moment. And I know I need to be more patient, tolerant, deal with frustrations. Think about this today and I'll be back tomorrow. I wrote that about 20 years ago. And I laughed when I found it. And I thought, that's a good example. You can see it's hit and miss with punctuation, and it's just, I wrote whatever came to mind. So let's get started. To begin with, you need to know that journaling is just for one person, and that is for you. You don't have to share it. You can review it if you want. You can analyze it if you want, but you don't have to. You can just release. This is in reference to that general journaling that I spoke about earlier. But there's also a purpose that we can use what we've spilled out onto paper to enhance our daily lives. And that allows us to move out of our head and move into action, seeing choices and opportunities that are right there in front of us, that we can live our life to the fullest for us. Journaling can prepare us for those daily conversations. This is just some quotes from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a very, very well-known doctor for his mindfulness, journaling, and whatnot. And his advice is just to start with one sentence, move into a paragraph, a chapter. But if you only get the one sentence in, that's okay. Just, it will flow, it will develop. It's practice, and it's practicing on paper. Explaining what you need, where you're going with your thoughts. You can organize, prioritize, shrink it to be more brief, to take to an appointment or to take to talk to family members. By putting it on paper, you can just really see where your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions are taking you. You get to tap into your own resources. And really, I remember when I first started doing this, I realized that I still have resources. I can still do all these things. You learn to trust yourself. And as I said earlier, carry a pen and paper, have it handy, have it in your purse or in the car or something like that. So when you have something that hits you and strikes you, that you can write something down to work with later. So getting started, I just have when it comes to the prep side of journaling, getting started, again, one sentence. But this is where I find that bullet journaling, it can be really helpful. And I list the thoughts that I want to emphasize. I get them on paper before I forget. Then I list the barriers to it or the supports that I have in place already. You can expand on the impacts, you can expand on the feelings you have, you can prioritize them for you. But then when you have it brief in bullet form, you can actually give that to a healthcare provider. They get to see what's important to you, but medically, from their point of view, they also get to see what else you have written. And between the two of you, you can get the priorities and work through that. And I do have a challenge for you. And that is just pick up a notebook. And you can even start with a really small one. And for the next 2 weeks, just choose a type of journaling and just start writing. You can explore yourself through this, put it on paper, see where thoughts and beliefs take you. You can prepare for your next meeting, whether it's to talk with family and friends, whether you're still working with coworkers, and of course, healthcare providers. But it's making a commitment to your health. You can reach out for assistance and support. You can practice on paper explaining what you can do and what you need support with. Reminding others that some days you have good days, some days you don't. But put it in writing. It helps with your memory. It will help with your conversations in the future. And then just to wind right up is just to remember why you're doing the journaling. And that is because you're doing it for you. So we didn't have a whole lot of time, but I hope that was enough information. If you have any questions or want any expansion on any of this, I'd be just touch base with us and I'd be happy to be in touch.
Sylvia, I have a quick question. Does it have to be paper?
Well, I asked that question because the RSD was in my right hand, which was my writing hand.
Mhm.
And as much as I did try, I did ask about that. And the explanation was, yes, you get the mind-body connection, you get the releasing, you when you actually write longhand. It's when in all the articles that I've read mention longhand writing. Physically, I had a disability with my right hand.
Yeah.
So as much as I would try, I did turn to typing because it was something I could do for a little bit longer than I could longhand at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But ideally, you want that brain body releasing connection to the paper.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think paper is definitely preferred, but I always end up, I get my hand cramps up. Not as bad as yours, obviously.
Exactly.
But
And we're not going to force people to do something that's going to hurt them.
yeah, exactly. So, and I know myself, I've been start and stop with journaling. And right now I'm stopped. I haven't done it in years, but I do a lot of processing when I write. So even the grief, for example, of losing my brother-in-law and then my dad and then my friend, all within the last few months. And I spoke at my brother-in-law's celebration of life, and I spoke at my friend's celebration of life, and just going through that whole process of what to write and how did I feel about it. It really helped me get through the grieving process. And I'm willing to bet, we as people with something that's progressing, we lose function, we lose friends, and I think doing journaling and would help people process that and get through the grief of all of that kind of stuff as well.
Very true. Very, very true.